on speech at public comment, so we don't hear the same things over and over again, and we can get through a meeting hearing the relevant points. And we have a sign-up sheet, so if you want to speak. We did have one item on the agenda has been pushed back 2 weeks, so we can do a site visit next week and make our decision in 2 weeks. So I'll get to that in a minute. So for Selectmen's updates, yesterday I attended the funeral of former First Selectwoman Rebecca Breed, who served 4 years as Selectwoman and 2 years as First Selectwoman from 1981 to 1983. It was a great tribute to her. As I remarked in the paper several times, that history gives us time to form a proper perspective on someone's performance so you can make a true assessment. And as many of you know, if you weren't living here at the time, there was a really historic and unfortunate incident where the bridge fell over the Minas River, which is now named after my cousin, who was a state senator at the time, Mike Morano. And people unfairly blamed her. And it's not like she caused the bridge to fall. And back then, there was no mass communication. There was no emails, no social media. And when she did get out, she faced death threats. She had to have police escorts. And a lot of us see a lot of this bad behavior in our present time, unfortunately. But we always have to remember two things: that the majority of people do not act like that even then, and that history never records those people very well. And it does offer us a time to look back on the leaders at those times. And I think it really shows that Rebecca Breed was a really good public servant, and the fact that she didn't go away and she went and got a degree and then a law degree and then volunteered, worked a lot with children, but volunteered a lot at the Greenwich Boys and Girls Club, and really made a difference in a community that we all love. And that's a true definition of a public servant. So we send our condolences again to Gift Breed and Alan Breed and Becky Breed and the whole Breed family at this time. Later today, on a happier note, we have our annual graduation at Greenwich High. We will all be there, I think, at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Later on tonight, I'll be stopping by one of our newer restaurants and businesses in town. I'm going to say this wrong, Chef Jean-Georges. Really a famous chef, but shows you how much I know. I can't even pronounce his name, but very famous. Everybody's very excited about it. But I think they're going to do a more formal opening tomorrow, so please stop by, say hello, and show support for one of our newer businesses. Saturday, I'm going to be going over to do a grand opening for Bax Cycles. My friend Jonathan Baxendale bought the old Dave's Cycle Shop on Valley Road in Coscab. It was started back in the early 70s by Dave Demore, somebody that we all knew really well. And he had it for a long time, and then most recently with Glenn Van Cura, who unfortunately passed away. And Jonathan Baxendale is going to continue the great tradition of the cycle shop in Coscab. So hope to see you there. I think we'll be there around 12 o'clock on Saturday. Sunday, we have Experience the Sound event over at Todd's Point at 1 o'clock. Monday, I will be attending a Westchester County Airport meeting with Westchester County Executive George Latimer. Lots of things to discuss on that one. This one was postponed by the county executive until he had time to meet with residents of Westchester County, so we're looking forward to that. On Wednesday, we're going to have a ceremony in here at 1 o'clock with the Perro family and 3 members of GEMS. These 3 members saved the life of a young woman and her baby. And so the Perro family, who I know well, grew up in Coscab with, reached out to me, really thought that these 3 employees deserve proper recognition. So we're going to be doing that 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Later that day, former police officer Tommy Keegan, beloved here in Greenwich, more recently, he's lived in Norwalk, where he was a member of the Board of Reps there. TK's moving to Florida, so we're going to send him off with a proclamation on Wednesday night. Florida man. West Coast, too. July 4th, don't forget, we're doing our annual July 4th event it draws hundreds of people. It's a very, very patriotic day. We have lots of people that are honored that day, and we celebrate the story not only of America, but of Greenwich during the Revolutionary time. And the next day, I'm going to be heading down to Pembroke Park to say wish the Thunder Red well as they head up to Cooperstown for a tournament. It's always a great time when you have a Greenwich team that's going pretty far and goes to one of these, whether it's the Little League World Series, Cal Ripken, Junior Babe Ruth, or Senior Babe Ruth, or Legion. It's always a good time, so I'm going to be stopping there and maybe loosen up in the bullpen, Ken. With that, turn it over to Lauren Raven for her updates.
Thanks, Fred. So, sorry. With some of the building committee items on our agenda, I'm going to just focus my updates on the selection process for building committees. As most people know, we went through many, many interviews in preparation for Central Middle School, and many of the people that we nominated as the Board of Selectmen were also appointed by the RTM in their meeting last week, June 13th. There was one person that it was determined had a professional conflict of interest. So we will be going back as the Board of Selectmen and looking at our rubric that we established to nominate people and nominate another member to that building committee. We do have to conduct the first meeting of the building committee within 30 days of that RTM appointment. So we're starting to collect the other members that are appointed by Planning and Zoning, the Board of Education, DPW, et cetera. So that first meeting should be taking place within a couple of weeks. And even though we'll be one member voting short, we're going to encourage whoever we nominate to attend meetings. There was a little bit of confusion with dates, and I know that there's a lot of people in the press here today. We have a date where we need to interview people by, because then we have to kind of opine as to who we're going to nominate. And then we submit those nominations to the RTM, and then there's a deadline date for those submissions. So some folks thought for Central Middle School that our deadline was May 20th, and that was actually the deadline that we needed to submit to the RTM, which meant we needed to do our interviews way before that. So our submissions for Julian Curtis and Old Greenwich Elementary School, the hope is that we will nominate people in time for appointments at the September RTM meeting, which, if I'm not mistaken, and thank you, Barbara, that means we have to get those names to the RTM by August 27th. So my colleagues and I are going to be very busy this summer. Fortunately, many of the people that we interviewed for Central Middle School expressed a desire to be on the other building committees. So we'll have a little bit less of a heavy lift. And that's my update.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning. So, Fred, I will thank you for mentioning Experience the Sound. I will be there from 1 to 4 this Sunday. I'm also looking forward to at 4 o'clock. I guess maybe not at 4 o'clock if one ends at 4 and one begins at 4, but Christchurch will be hosting an LGBTQ plus ice cream social. I'm looking forward to that. And yes, today is all about our Greenwich Public Schools. I'm looking forward to graduation very much. And thank you, Lauren, for the update on the building committees. We've definitely had a lot of inquiries from the community. And then later in this meeting, I am really looking forward to hearing from a very impressive group of high school students who have put forward a climate resolution. Thank you for your excellent work, and I look forward to hearing more later in this meeting.
Thank you, Janet.
Oh, I have one more update, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Back on the building committees, I have it written down and I forgot. So the GHS Security Vestibule Building Committee, we did get the building permit Monday of this week, so RFPs can go out. So that's how that building committee is progressing.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, under old business, there were 2 items. There's only going to be one right now before we get to new business. We did pull the amendment to the traffic ordinance at Perna Lane. I'm going over, meeting with the residents there, talking with them. talking with DPW, going over all possibilities where we doesn't, whatever we decide doesn't lead to unintended consequences. And certainly, we're trying to, we don't want to be a solution looking for a problem. We just want to make sure that it's more of a safer area. And I think speeding seems to be, everybody on both sides of this seems to be the #1 culprit. So we have some ideas, and we're going to do a site visit there in a couple days, and we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll make our decision, and hopefully it'll make it a little bit safer for the residents there. So thank you for your patience. Okay, the last item in old business, the MI Greenwich Avenue intersection improvement. Jim, you're back again. Thanks.
Thank you. So a couple weeks ago, we were here before you and presented about the Greenwich Avenue intersection improvements. This is for the Elm Street, or not the Elm Street, we did that one already, the Arch Street, Havemeyer intersection, as well as the Fawcett and Grigg intersection. So as part of this project, we're looking to add 12 parking stalls. We're increasing the amount of green space, and we're making it a much safer and improving ADA accessibility. So I know we've all discussed this many times, so is there any other question? I'm here to answer questions more than anything, I think, today.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I know that the Commission on Aging wrote a letter of support. I know Greenwich Communities, Greenwich Housing Authority has offered support. I know the Greenwich Fire Department has sent a letter of support, as has the Police Department and the ADA community. So we're very happy that a broad section of the community, our most vulnerable users, have weighed in on this. And I want to thank you again for not only your work, but your patience throughout the process and answering a lot of the questions. So thank you.
So there was an article in the Free Press, I think, about your meeting with the Historic District Commission. Maybe if you, from your point of view, want to summarize how some of their input will be incorporated?
Yeah, so I did reach out to them this morning to just see if they had their write-up of the actual motions that they made last night, but we finished about 10:30, 11 o'clock last night on that meeting. But the general gist of it was, in general, we're trying to keep as much as we can with this historic nature of the area. We're trying to do things that are not going to impact the monuments. They did bring up and gave us some great suggestions. We had a nice, the fact that the meeting was 3.5 hours tells you the type of positive dialogue we had. We had a lot of back and forth discussions about what things they felt were important to the project, what things we might want to consider as we fine tune our design to make a few improvements. They did emphasize a little bit of the triangular nature of the point of out in front of where the old post office used to be. So we're going to take another look at that to see is there ways we can make a little bit better modification there to kind of keep that feel there. The Fawcett and Grigg intersection, they really, basically the one comment came out that they wanted us to square up a little bit of a crosswalk. So that was about the only thing that came up there. So in general, I think it went fairly well. We do appreciate all the dialogue. We go to a lot of these different meetings, and that's what makes these projects even better, is getting the feedback of the community, getting the feedback of everybody to try and just fine tune this process as we go through.
Thank you.
Just one quick follow-up. We heard last time, I don't know who mentioned it, that they were, sorry. We heard last time from someone that they were not so much concerned about it affecting the monument, but that the part where you thought about maybe making it more concrete there in front of a gathering place in front of the memorial, we heard from someone said that, they thought it would be better grass, and, grass is always good. So I thought that was a good point to maybe take into consideration. So as we're adding net more green space with this, we certainly want to keep that look and feel of that historic district, I think, and as green as possible. So if there's any way to incorporate that thought, would be
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the comments that came up from last night too, was to work with the veterans associations to see which, what they really like to see, because, do they want to put a bench near there? Do they want to put some other paver areas or a little patio area that people can, that they can do some ceremonies here and there for, or do we want to just keep it grass? One of the comments was by doing the realignment, it maybe actually draws a little bit more attention to the bowling monument that's over there, because it kind of sits, right now, you have differences of opinion. Sitting it back is a little bit more reserved and a little bit quieter, but, so if people want that quiet reflection space, that's fine. If you bring it closer to the road, that actually draws a little bit more attention. People may actually notice that it's there, and some people may not even notice that it's there. So we're going to keep working through that as we move forward on this to make a decision.
Thank you, and I know the veterans appreciate it. I spoke with a few this week, and they appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
And I just want to join and say, again, thank you for your time and thoughtful work that's gone into this. I am appreciative that that the modifications will shorten the distance that pedestrians have to cross. I also appreciate that it looks like parking will be minimally impacted. I have full confidence that the project won't go over budget. But I do want to, at this time, make a note, and this is not about this particular project, it has to do with managing traffic and pedestrian crossings, especially at busy times. I do think that this is an improvement. I do think we, though, have to think about managing traffic. And so if there's any possibility that we can get either lights or crossing guards or special officers, I just want to note that at this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Janet. Yeah, the idea of those old-fashioned lights going back a century that are low, not above right in the middle of the intersection, we talked about it a couple of years ago, and it was, I think, a mixed reaction, but I would absolutely think it's a good idea to entertain that with the public going forward, and certainly if the public wants that, I'd be willing to put it in the budget and fight for it if that's what the public wants. They don't look bad, and you can make them look, where they're not sticking out and detracting from what you're doing here, which is beautifying it also. So certainly it's a great conversation, and I'm willing to have that. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from our board? Jim, thank you. You may have a couple questions. If not, I'll look around. All right. Seeing no comments or questions, is there a motion on the floor?
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we grant municipal improvement status to the Greenwich Avenue intersection improvements at Arch and Havemeyer and Fawcett and Grigg.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thanks again, and also thanks to the public for the comments and the suggestions. And if there's anything else, we're not done with it yet. So certainly, please feel free to reach out to DPW or any of us to offer your suggestions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Going on to new business. First up is to amend the neighbor-to-neighbor lease at 1 Horse Neck. And we have Ben Branyan, our COO and town administrator. Morning, Ben.
Good morning, everyone. Some good news. If you approve the motion in front of you today, I promise you this will be the last time I present to the Board of Selectmen on a neighbor-to-neighbor lease extension for the Horseneck lot. Don't jinx yourself. This one I'm fairly confident on, but I hope. I know we've been here several times, but in front of you is the motion to approve the lease from 1 Horseneck Lane for the last and final term of 2 months with the expiration date of August 31st, 2022. This lease was fully executed and approved by the Board of Selectmen, the RTM, earlier this year. And we do have our Executive Director from Neighbor to Neighbor here if you have any questions. But I think the explanation attached here provides the background on why this is needed. But they're very close with their new headquarters, just needs a couple months to give some assurance, if you will.
Thank you so much, Ben, and I want to thank you for bringing this forward. And it's just a comment. It's a great thing that we had this available because it saved the town a lot as a safety when we needed the space. And certainly this latest one fits right in there. And the new neighbor-to-neighbor complex or facility is beautiful. I know Margaret can't wait to show everybody. So we're almost there. And yes, long-term, we certainly would love that lot to be back to being not only a parking lot, but a nicer looking one. And certainly, this, whether you have something like this in there, the way it looks now is not what anybody likes. So certainly, we hope that this would be the end of that. But we do have hopes for that lot to be more useful to the town, but also aesthetically nicer too. So thank you.
Just one point of information, the insurance document you received in the packet, that we did receive the most recent document with all the dates that far exceed the expiration date, so insurance is in order.
All right, thank you.
Can you just remind me when the Boys and Girls Club was going to move into that space?
The anticipated date was September. More than likely, it'll be moved to mid-September.
Okay.
We're still going through the MI process with P&Z and then syncing that up with the RTM approval, which will be in September. So the original date was September 1, will be moved to mid-September, as long as RTM approval.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Okay. Is there a motion?
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we amend the neighbor-to-neighbor lease of 1 Horseneck Lane to an expiration date of August 31st, 2022.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay. Second on our list is the Board of Education request to form an Old Greenwich School Building Committee. And we have Dr. Jones somewhere. Oh, okay. Thank you. Just appreciate just for the record, state your name.
Sean O'Keefe, Chief Operating Officer.
Thanks, Sean.
Sean O'Keefe, Chief Operating Officer, Board of Ed. Did not come prepared for anything.
Just a request.
Yeah.
Okay. We're familiar. I mean, I don't even have any questions. I know because we had such a great response to the Central Building Committee, we're starting to build a bench now, which is great. Lots of people with tremendous skill sets. So we're trying, and we know we have a lot of committees around the bend. So we're excited to start to tap into that vast reservoir of talent. So, is there a motion to accept this request?
Before I do, I just want to make sure that we coordinate on deadlines. So, in my update, I was talking about deadlines. So as Tony does her Friday blasts, that, we don't miscommunicate anything with respect to deadlines. Deadlines for submitting their nominations is what I mean. Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the Board of Education request to form an Old Greenwich School Building Committee.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, the next on the agenda is very similar, but only it's a request to form a building committee for Julian Curtis. Is there a motion to accept that request?
Lauren Rabin, I motion that we approve the Board of Education request to form a Julian Curtis School Building Committee.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Very tough meeting, but I'm glad it's over.
Don't get used to it. Thanks, Sean. Okay, next up, the fourth item on the under new business is a request for a town declaration for a climate change emergency. And thank you. We have a speaker list here, and this is a first read. So we will go to our speakers, and then we'll ask some questions and make some comments. So first up, we have Nicole Freitas. Is Nicole here? And remember, when you come there, just if you could just, again, announce your name. I may have mispronounced it, or just for the record. Thanks, Nicole.
Yes. Hi, I'm Nicole Freitas, and I'm a resident at 13 Division Street West, and I'm an intern at Save the Sound. I go to UConn, and I'm majoring in environmental studies and political science on the pre-law track. And I'm taking this time to express my utmost support on the climate emergency resolution that the Greenwich Environmental Advocacy Group has put forward for the Board of Selectmen to approve. Climate change is the biggest problem to face youth and families in our known history. And the impacts of climate change are already resulting in floods, storms, loss of resources, and the growing costs of access to energy. Our shoreline exposes thousands of residents to flood risks. And in tropical storms Irene and Sandy, Greenwich experienced devastating flooding and power outages. And as it more recently did with Ida, with many still dealing with the aftermath of this storm. And scientists predict that these storms will only intensify and become more frequent in coming years. My family and I love going to Todd's Point, as do many other residents. And it would be devastating to see the beach damaged from rising sea levels and increasingly dangerous storms. This resolution will support the development of concrete plans to protect the community. Implementing coastal management practices can restore, enhance, and maintain our shoreline and marsh habitat. A more resilient coastline will protect the town and our beautiful Todd's Point from rising tides and extreme weather. Our government's increasing dedication to climate action by passing a climate emergency resolution will bolster community participation and educate our residents about the benefits of sustainability. This will facilitate more initiatives, such as the Public Schools Zero Waste Foods Program by Waste Free Greenwich. The program empowers our town's largest institutions to adopt sustainable behaviors that will lead the town to waste reduction, physical savings, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions produced by incinerators. Lastly, I want to add that focusing on energy efficiency is vital to the town of Greenwich. Our new energy standard proposed by Governor Lamont requires Connecticut to supply 100% of its electricity from zero carbon resources by 2040. We must reduce our dependency on fossil fuels to sustain our economy and reduce air pollution by increasing our dedication and becoming leaders in climate action. Let this resolution be a step to investing in the future of Greenwich, my future. And don't let it just be words, but let it be accompanied with action. I would urge you to support this resolution because it's a crucial and simple step to ensure that Greenwich is taking action to support its residents and the state's climate goals. In the end, it's my generation that will be disproportionately affected by our current climate crisis. And on behalf of Greenwich and Save the Sound, I urge you to vote yes on adopting the resolution and support local climate action. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Nicole. Much appreciated. Next up, we have Alex Rodriguez. Oh.
Hello, good morning, Honorable Board of Selectmen. Thank you for raising this crucial resolution today. I'm Alex Rodriguez, and I work as climate advocate with the regional organization Save the Sound. We're dedicated to fighting for climate action, restoring ecosystems, preserving land, and protecting Long Island Sound and Connecticut's rivers and ecosystems. I am not going to tack on too much to the points made by my astounding colleague and policy intern, Nicole. I think she has laid out the urgency of the climate crisis quite well. I would just urge you all to look at this resolution as a town-by-town collaboration to hold Connecticut accountable to meeting its climate goals. Right now, the state is out of compliance with the required Global Warming Solutions Act. There was 2 iterations of this policy passed in 2008 and 2018 to require the state reduce greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. Currently, DEEP says that we are out of compliance with such standards. And so by working on a municipal basis, Save the Sound has been assisting and lending support to groups like the Greenwich Environmental Advocacy Group, New Haven Climate Movement, and many others in pursuing municipal climate resolutions to raise the urgency of climate change so that we may eventually put enough pressure on the state to pool resources into climate action, adaptation, and resiliency. And so I urge you to pass this resolution today. Thank you for hearing my remarks.
Thank you, Alex. We're going to take a first read, so we'll vote on it in 2 weeks. But is there anybody else that walked in that wants to sign up and say something?
Does she present it? I think Isabel presents it.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah, sure. Just announce yourself when you come. Thanks. I only had 2 names on the sign-up sheet, but I figured there was more that wanted to speak.
But isn't Isabel presenting it to us?
Yeah, but I'd have to go by the, yeah.
Okay. My name is Isabel. I'm a graduating senior at Greenwich High School. And so the GEAG, or Greenwich Environmental Advocacy Group, has introduced this climate resolution in order to ignite action in Greenwich towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions in line with state and federal goals. The state of Connecticut has passed a number of laws and executive orders related to climate change, including the Global Warming Solution Act of 2008, the Lamont Executive Order of 2021, and just last month, the CT Clean Air Act of 2022. We need to make these laws tangible in our own world. In the coming decades, scientists have predicted increasingly destructive models of how the global climate is going to change if we continue with the status quo. More severe and frequent natural disasters, droughts, and heat waves, to name a few. The tipping point, they have stated, is going to be 2030 to 2035, after which changes to our global climate will be irreversible. This future is a scary future for people my age, and that is why we need to fight for our lives to stop suffocating ourselves from our own pollution. This is an emergency for us. Our entire generation's future hangs in the balance of decisions like this one we are asking you to make. I'm speaking on behalf of the dozens and dozens of peers who support this action. We, along with the youth of the nation, are pleading for action from all levels of government to please do something, to make changes while it's still possible. This is why we as a town should do our part to save this world and the people in it from our own destruction, and start making change by passing this resolution. Just yesterday, I was talking to one of my environmental science teachers about the future of Todd's Point, and he, who has been able to see the new Live Like Luke interactive display at the Innis Arden Sound Center, which showed how if sea level rise continues the way it is, much of Todd's Point will be gone. So it really affects our town a lot. And I would love to listen to your comments so that we can make the resolution even stronger. Lastly, we welcome your feedback and truly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel. Seeing no one else here, I really appreciate you bringing this forward here. In Greenwich, we certainly take this seriously. The last few years, we've established an Energy Management Advisory Committee, a Sustainability Committee. We've got our first few, as of a few years ago, electric vehicle charging stations. We put money in the budget for 2 electric vehicles for our own fleet here this year. Little by little, we'd like to stay in line with what the plans are for even the major car manufacturers who have stated by 2040 they're going to just be all electric cars. So we want to get a head start on that. So the goal here is great. I can remember being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan in the 70s, as a kid, I'd watch it and you'd see all this, everything that had to do with Pittsburgh was not just sports, it was smokestack industries and all these plants with spewing pollutants. And if you go to Pittsburgh now, it's a beautiful, clean city. So everything starts with something, and movements like this. So I appreciate it. I think we've come a long way in society, but we still have a long way to go. And I would just say my own views on this, and we'll certainly like to circle back with you offline. Just the overall goal of this, I couldn't agree with more, but there's some parts of it I would probably, to be more inclusive, I'm trying to find where I saw it. If we're talking about communities that are affected by it, maybe disproportionately, if we start naming communities, we're also going to leave some communities out. And I think probably my view would be to probably focus more on socioeconomic, which incorporates everybody, because you're always going to hear somebody saying, well, what about so-and-so? What about this? And we know for a fact that communities all over and people who look very different all suffer from economic circumstances, sometimes beyond their control. So I would probably be more inclusive with that. And certainly, we all want to go to a fossil-free world, and I think we're working towards that with the help, again, of the car manufacturers, with their stated goal of 2040. But we also have to keep in mind what's going on now, and when people are fixed incomes, they're paying in many places $7 a gallon for gas, and while natural gas is our cleanest fossil fuel, and there's a lot of it in the United States, there is people now very angry about that and want that pipeline opened up again just to get us over this to where wouldn't stop all of what's going on here for solar, geothermal. But we're not there yet. And so I think there's some concern that we would be putting ourselves and hurting our most vulnerable economically. So maybe that part of it, just to continue with the goal 150%, don't take a step back on that, but just to acknowledge the fact that we may not be able to do without natural gas, and we don't want to hurt people who just can't afford to get an electric vehicle. It's just out of their budget reach. So we have to always remember that not everybody has the ability to just flip a switch and go to totally gas-free and fossil fuel-free existence. So, but Ressa, I think this is really good, and I think it would send a good statement from the town that we're backing up what we're trying to do anyway with a statement. So that's just my view, but I'm sure my colleagues may have other things that they want to talk about. So, Janet, I'll kick it off to you.
Sure. Thank you, Fred. First of all, thank you for your excellent work. As co-chair of the Sustainability Committee, and I see my in the audience, Pat Sesto, I just want to note that the Sustainability Committee has enthusiastically endorsed this resolution. This is really impressive. And on a personal note, you guys are high school students, but you wouldn't know it based on the quality of this work. I wish I had half of your poise and vision at your age. At this more mature age, I hope I have your poise and vision. So thank you very much. So Fred, I just want to address that, the point you make about affordability. Last week's expo, Electrify Your Life, was really eye-opening, and some of those car models are extremely affordable. A Nissan Leaf is extremely affordable. So I'm actually a little bit more optimistic that we can do this. So I look forward to our second read and supporting this.
Yes, good point. Competition will always bring prices down, right? Like, remember when we had those VCRs were really expensive, and they're not even around anymore, but then they got to be dirt cheap. The more people that get in that business, right, then you don't have to drive a car for 10 years just to get it back again. And that's what drives people, one reason people don't get those cars. So the more people are doing it, it's going to become more affordable. I think we have to just encourage it. So good point. Lauren?
Sure, thanks. And nice to meet Nicole and Alex. We were emailing last week. So thank you for coming in and speaking. And thank you, Isabel, and your team for putting this together. I know that we had a meeting and we talked about alignment to the POCD, and I know you met with planning and zoning. So that's good because it's going to take a village. I know that's like an overused term, but the more people that are connected and involved, that's important. I remember when you had the rally last summer, and I announced to everybody that I was going to be a grandmother. Well, I am a grandmother. My grandson's going to be 6 months old, so I totally understand, the world that we need to leave for our children and our grandchildren. And I thank you for, the efforts. I probably have one or two things that I might change some wording on. Interesting point, Fred, that you made about, the pointing out the actual specific communities. I think maybe I might have some feedback on item 4. for the second read. And I have been passionate about, and Alex, I owe you a phone call or a request for a meeting. I think one of the things that we could do too is I'm going to pitch getting more kids on school buses instead of making the distance so far away that they qualify for a school bus and that their parents then drive them to school. So that I think could help. That's something that I want to try to get moving. But again, thank you. I really appreciate the effort and respect it and admire it.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, and if you're around early next week, maybe we can all circle back and go over some things and get your feedback and if there's anything else. And yeah, by the great work. I think Janet's right. Certainly, it looks like a college professor's paper. So thank you very much. Much appreciated for all your work and all your mentors that are here today. So thank you. Okay, very good job. All right, so now we have one more item on the, and if I could get to it. Okay, we have a request for a road closure on Sound Beach Avenue. And I don't know, is Marcos and Rich with us? I think they're both there. Hi, Rich.
And now we're on here too. How are you, Freddie? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Two of the nicest guys in town.
Well, thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you both. Thanks for coming to us. And yeah, you have an item here for us.
We sure do. So I'll let Marcos speak to the event itself, but in terms of the road closure request, it's the same request as we have annually for First Light. Obviously be in a nice warm month like September, which turns out to be our summer these days. But same road closure, same detour pattern as First Light, and have already spoken to GPD and their traffic division, which they approved the plan. So that's why we are here in front of you guys today. As you recall, we did have our fourth annual Art in the Park in Binney Park, which was fantastic, nice passive use of the park, a free event, and people really had a nice time. And many of the artists took 100% of their proceeds and donated back to local nonprofits, including a great friend and customer of Images and Chili Bear, and she's supporting other artists with a scholarship donation. So a great event, and we're hoping to do the same in Old Greenwich in September. So I'll let Marco speak to the event.
Yes, well, my main concern when I organize the shows, or we organize the shows, is to give a little more exposure to the merchants in town. And when I go to, Norwalk, Stanford, they have all these street fairs, which brings people into town, and they end up using the restaurants, the delis, they go into the shops. So, and that's my main idea, to promote the business in Old Greenwich and at the same time helping local artists. They were very successful and they all want to come back.
Well, thank you, Marcos. Yeah, and I would agree. I think the successful events like that are an attraction for businesses. And I know I've been to this event before. It's a great time. And I don't know if my colleagues have any questions or comments, but I know it's a really terrific. If somebody hasn't been there, it's a nice way to spend a few hours in the fall.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, no questions from me either. It's
Okay.
exciting.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
well, thank you, and you guys are two
Just
pirates
as
are
a
two of the.
reminder, is the profit we make, it goes back to, the things that we want to do for the town of Greenwich. I mean, it's mostly for upgrading things, or we want to have the tree lights. So, and that costs money. And since we are able to raise that money with the local artists, we want to, again, do it quite often if we can.
Yeah, Freddie, we'll be back to you in the fall for same permission for First Light, which is always the first Saturday in December. What we're working on right now is to find a contractor, if anybody's listening, to help us light the trees in Old Greenwich, similar to what goes on in Greenwich Avenue and now in Coscob. We're looking to have the Merchants Association be the sponsor of it and work directly with the tree contractor to do so. So, you know, proceeds from this event will support that effort. And then obviously First Light, which is about 80% of our overhead each year, is the carriages and closure and permits and all that sort of thing, which people absolutely love. It's thousands and thousands of people that enjoy that event every year, and it's a really nice time. We had a nice time at the firehouse last year, so appreciate your support on that event as well.
Yeah, we do.
Well, thank you. It's the two great events, and in addition to Images and Chili Bear being two of the great businesses in the Old Greenwich community, I want to thank you both for caring for your neighbors and the residents there, and always looking to improve that downtown business district with really constructive ideas and input. So thanks to you both for that.
Thank you.
Great, appreciate it, Freddie.
Well, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
Lauren Raven, I motion that we approve the request for road closure on Sound Beach Avenue on September 18th from the hours of 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay. Thanks again, Rich and Marcos.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment here? Ken, any comment on the Mets' last 3 games? No?
Oh, terrible, terrible. The season's falling apart. The Yankees are winning the World Series.
June swoon. Okay. With that,
I do have one appointment nomination that we were going to do last meeting that we ran out of time. So Lauren Raven, I motion that we approve the appointment of Carolyn Stevens as a member of the Selectmen's Nomination Advisory Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2023.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
all those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you. Seeing no other comment, is there a motion to adjourn?
Lauren Raven, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor? Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Barb. Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate it. Barbara, Ken, good to see you both, and we'll see you soon.
And I did want to mention, I'm not living at Hillside anymore, but it's got a big driveway, so I'm, if you need a place to park for the graduation, which is, I think you might walk.
Yeah, we have permits.
Okay, I'm just saying.
But you know, it might be,
Sometimes
it
Or maybe, or your sister, or like if anyone says, you know, hey.
It may be easier because last
it's-
year, like trying to make the left off of the Post Road onto Hillside was like a disaster.
Jenny's been saving me
So-
for years.
And you can just walk to the stadium. from-
I've always parked at YW and just walk over.
See, so if you park at my house, you just go to the Post Road and walk into the stadium that way as opposed to the whole. And then the amazing thing about my particular location is when you pull out to Hillside and people are at the light, there are only 2 or 3 cars in front of them, so they always go like, oh yeah, you can get in. So if you're leaving from my driveway, unless you have, like some people run the right turn on red on the left, and I did get hit once, but basically it's actually a good situation because of how close I am. to the
Yeah, and
intersection
even
to pull out.
parking in the circle.
I'm just saying, because I'm not going to be there. And some kids park there, you know, there's some friends of my grandson, and some, oh, your cousin, your sister, your niece parks there. So it's fine, just, you're on your own though, just find a place, and don't block anyone in, that's why I said, I tell everyone, just, you know, as long as you don't block someone in. Okay, sorry.